The pace has picked up so rapidly that pick 103 has changed hands. This is the Code AFL show. The trade period is speeding up. My name is Josh Barnes. I've got Chris Kavanagh in the seat next to me. Cav, hopefully you were sitting down for that Will Brodie trade.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, wasn't it? Getting to Port Adelaide for pick 103. So, had a good season at Fremantle a few years ago, 2022. Yeah. I think he played every game for the Dockers, but we haven't seen much of him since. But, yeah, the Power have handed over that prize pick of 103, which I can't see how that gets used in this draft, given it's a bit of a weaker draft this year. But Chris Grant got picked up at 105, so who knows?
Yeah, you could find someone, I suppose. I think it's pretty, as you said, it's very, very unlikely. It's so unlikely that it wasn't even on the sort of official AFL draft order before this morning.
I noticed that. They changed that this morning. It wasn't on there yesterday. So.
Yeah. So they're almost inventing picks to trade for him. It is an extremely low yield return. We'll go through him and Tyler Young and potential deals to come. Can Will Brodie even do anything at Port Adelaide? What do you think, just quickly?
Well, unless Zach Butters is leaving, where's the spot for him in the midfield? I mean, you've got Butters, Horn Francis, Connor Rosie. You've got all these guys. Ollie Wines are still running around. So I'm not sure where the spot is for him, but a bit of depth in case one of those guys goes down injured next year, I guess.
Should do some big numbers in the sample, I reckon, Will Brodie. Tyler Young also moved on Monday morning for pick 38. He goes to West Coast. A bit of defensive depth and Richmond get a pick really there.
Yeah, well, West Coast could do with some defensive depth, couldn't they? So
they could do with a lot of things.
They're pretty light on there, but yeah, Richmond got pick 38 back in return for him. So not a bad deal for the Tigers probably in the end. I mean, that pick might get pushed out to 50 because of all these academy bids and father-son bids that are going to come. But I think a 27-year-old played 7 games in the back half of the year after coming back from the ACL. So, Pretty good win-win for both those clubs, I reckon.
Yeah, I think getting a second rounder for him is pretty good business, really, for Richmond. They've got to be pretty happy with that, which leads us into Richmond. They've been one of the quietest teams of the trade period. We know last year they were very busy sending players out the door more than anything else. Mm-hmm. Before we even check the numbers, they have now 81 and 99. That wasn't on there before today, but before that Tyler Young deal, they only had picks 3 and 4. Obviously, that is their aim and their goal at the moment is to draft more young talents. You're our draft expert here, Cav. Do they need more than 3, 4 and 38 or is that what they're going to be looking to use?
They might just need one more because we do have Louis Callaway coming through as a father-son. So he, is probably a later pick in the draft. He might push beyond that pick 38. So they might need one more late pick to get him in. But I think I spoke to him at the draft combine the other week. He only spoke to 2 other clubs. Expectations are that he's going to land at Punt Road. And it's just a son of Duncan, of course. So and nephew of Andrew, who also played for the Tigers. So he can sort of midfielder, can play inside, outside, from South Australia. So they might just need one more there. They might be able to get 3 in before him.
Yeah, and they have actually a little bit of room, the Tigers. They've delisted 5 and now Tyler Young's been traded, so they have a little bit of room on the list. They're not scrambling to try and fit them in, so they have a little bit of space to move there. Are you surprised they haven't been more active this trade period? You follow the Tigers closely, or is this what we should have expected given they are still in that drafting phase?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they haven't done much. Yeah, I think they're very much in that drafting phase. They had a lot of the high picks last year. And I think that if they get another few good picks through the door this year, then they're going to really set themselves up, especially with Tasmania coming in. That's been Richmond's strategy. They knew they had to rebuild. They've gone early and tried to do it now before the compromised drafts become even more compromised.
Yeah. And obviously the draft pool. So 3 and 4, there's been some, I guess, Tiger fans out there wondering, should we split one of those picks and get a couple in the teens or something like that? But what would you be doing with those 2? Do you think it's better to have those 2 or a 3 or a 4 and a couple of picks later? Yeah,
well, the interesting one is Essendon. So they've reached out to Richmond and West Coast as well about trading up to get one of those picks from either of those 2 clubs. I think Richmond's probably better off staying put where it is, but because the top end of the draft is pretty good, the top 10 or so is pretty reasonable this year. Drops off a bit after that. So unless you're getting back a pick 6 from Essendon plus something else decent in the teens or thereabouts,
21 or something like that.
Something like that, then maybe you consider trading back a little bit. But I think at that point of the draft, Richmond's going to have some good options. Like obviously the big bolter has been Sullivan Roby, who's come right in. I reckon he'd be right in the frame for Richmond at one of those picks. If Cooper Duff-Tytler, the ruckman, got past West Coast's first 2 picks, then I think he'd come into the frame there. The Tigers would love him. And then you've got like Sam Grill, Dyson Sharp from South Australia, really good midfielder. Xavier Taylor is a defender from the Eastern Rangers. He's a pretty good option too. So there's a lot of good players available for them at those first couple of picks at the moment.
Yeah, well, we'll just keep going with those picks. So 5 and 6 belong to Essendon, as you said. They're another team that has been reasonably quiet. Obviously, there is a bomb waiting to go off there, whether Zach Merrett leaves or not. But outside of him, they're going to bring in Braden Fiorini, we expect. It sounds like they asked the question about Zane Dersman. That doesn't seem to have been going anywhere. Outside of that, they haven't really been making any improvements to their list, the Bombers. They have held this, I guess, medium-term strategy to not sell the farm and go after recruits, which they've done in the past, and it didn't work. But they'll be stagnating, obviously, if they only bring in a Braden Fiorini in this offseason and lose Sam Draper as a free agent. They're clearly trying to get up the board, but should they be doing anything else, do you think, the Dons?
Well, I think they're in a pretty good spot. So they got 5, 6, 21, 27 and 30. So that's 5 picks inside
hand,
30.
yeah.
It's a pretty good hand. So I think they obviously got a few good players through the door last year. Isaac Kako, Cale Guerin, Angus Clark came in, so they were all top 40 picks last year. So you get another 5 top 40s through the door, and that's a pretty good 2-year block. So I think, and then Essendon's also got a couple of NGA prospects too in Adam Swade and Hussein Alachka, who will come through the door. They're probably top 30 picks, so potentially get in 3 picks before them, and then you get those 2 through the door, and you're in a pretty good spot, I reckon, if you're the Bombers. Yeah,
it would be a sneaky, quick drafting, I guess, rebuild, which is what they wanted to do. They wanted to get those 18-year-olds through the door and try and get some talent, because I think they'd sort of realised they were sitting mid-table and not getting any better. And that means 2026, they're not going to be getting any better. But I believe in that longer-term strategy for the Dons. They've tried to go short-term too many times.
Yep.
Obviously, if Merrett leaves, there was sort of speculation they'll go after Jack Steele. That doesn't seem likely now, but they might need another warm body in the midfield. But they've got a guy like Will Setterfield who's uncontracted that they could probably just flip back in. So I don't think it's a disaster for Dons fans. Obviously, that all hinges on Zach Merrett. Before we go and talk about the Hawks side of things, where do you think this is at? Is this going to get done? We still don't have an official trade request as we record this on Monday afternoon. He's going to have to probably put his foot down and start moving towards Hawthorn pretty soon, I would think.
Yeah, it's deadline's approaching, isn't it? So the 7:30 p.m. Wednesday night, it's got to be done. It's probably one of those ones that gets done at 7:29 Wednesday night, isn't it? If it is going to get done, but I think it's probably going to be tough for the Hawks. So they're willing to give up a top 10 pick for him. Essendon wants a lot more than that, and rightly so, because he is their skipper. Still got quite a few years of good footy in him, you'd think. So I think they're still a way apart. They weren't talking at all last week, the two parties. So whether that they can get together and come to an agreement this week in the next 2 days remains to be seen. But I think it's going to be tough to do, given how strong Essendon has been in saying that they're not going to trade him.
We've seen this a little bit this week, and we'll talk about it probably when we get to talking about Charlie Curnow, is that clubs are, I don't know if they're scared, but they're loath to even mention the possibility of players being in trades before it gets to the goal line. I think clubs are... Hawthorn is still not saying anything about a Cam McKenzie or a Mitch Lewis or a guy like that, because I think once Mitch Lewis knows that he's on the trade block, then things change rapidly. So that's why I think there's a bit of a hold up on these kind of things. They try and get the deals done, like we saw with Geelong and Curnow. They try and offer everything they have with picks before realising the only way you're going to do it is a player, and then you have to go to a different ballgame. So you need to almost get the deal agreed before you even get the player to know about it. So
if you were the Hawks, would you give up Cam McKenzie for him?
So it'd be Cam McKenzie and a pick 9, something like that?
Most likely.
I probably would do that if I was Hawthorn. McKenzie's not in their team even at the moment. I think he has potential, but Merrett probably jumps him into a stratosphere. I think the return you're getting from Merrett over the next 5 years is probably more than you'd get for Cam McKenzie and pick 9 in the next 8 years. It's probably the calculation.
And that's where your window is if you're Hawthorn too. Yeah. You've loaded up. You've got Josh Battle and you've got Tom Barassi, and you're there for the now. You've played finals the last couple of years, so Merrett could be the cream on the cake, but you just need to get that done. If it means giving up McKenzie, so be it, I reckon. Yeah,
we know the Hawks were keen on Bailey Humphrey. That seems like it's going nowhere at the moment, and we've been surprised before, so that could reignite. But at this stage, he's staying. We know they're keen like every other man and his dog, including Code Sports. We're clearing the decks for Zach Butters, whatever it takes to get him to our team as well. But they'll be keen on him next year. Are you surprised they're not doing anything more around the edges of the Hawks? It seems like it's Merrett or nothing at the moment.
It does seem that way, yeah. I mean, as we said, they did a fair bit last year, bringing in a couple of guns. So yeah, maybe they're just they're clearly focused on Merrett. But yeah, I'm not sure who else they get at this late stage if it doesn't come off by Wednesday night.
Yeah, potentially I think they're looking at it as this might be our last chance to get a pick even close to pick 9, which is what they have at the moment. It's not even their pick, but if they can use that, I think they're planning to be picking after 15 and 16 from years to come, and I think that's trending that way. So they've probably done their work. They said they were quite targeted in recent years, which they have been. They got the 2 defenders last year. They got a couple guys sort of around the edges that have worked for them. So I think it makes sense, and they're going to expect gradual improvement again next year, but at some point they're probably going to have to try and get that guy in to put them over the top, which I guess Zach Merrett probably is, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly right. What about some of the other mail on those other deals that aren't done yet? You've been on the phones a couple of times this morning. Where are things at?
A few voicemails to chat to, which is always good. Charlie Curnow seems like he's on his way to Sydney as we record this. It looks like he'll be popping into Sydney and going through there. It's just hard to see how deals are going to get done for guys like Merrett and Curnow. We spoke obviously about Geelong only offering draft picks. They're hesitant to bring any players into the deals at the moment. Sydney players keep saying no. It seems Ollie Florent doesn't want to go. James Rowbottom doesn't want to go. Despite Will Hayward telling us a couple of weeks ago, he's trying to back away from that sort of chat at the moment. Again, Sydney can't get this done without a player, I don't think. Even though their pick 11 is better than what Geelong has to offer, I can't see draft picks getting it done for Carlton. They've put a line in the sand that unless you can manage to get a third team and to give you a couple of really good draft picks, it's not happening. So even if Curnow does make that request, I don't see right now how Sydney can fulfill it, or Geelong. Who do you think has more trouble walking back into their clubs, Curnow or Merrett, if the deals don't
Merrett as captain, as Essendon captain, I think he has more trouble, and the players that spoke out against him as well when he was having these meetings with Hawthorn. I think it's a little bit awkward there. I think it can still be okay, that they can make up and all be fine come pre-season. But I think he's a little bit more awkward than Charlie. But Charlie does want out too, so and it's that's been pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a shrug of the shoulders for Charlie if he doesn't make it through. Chris Matraka, all the talk is pick 7 and 8 for pick 24 in return. You know the Gold Coast situation better than anybody else. Is that enough for Gold Coast to survive with all the picks and draft points they need, or does that put them back too far making a deal like that?
Yeah, it depends about the Connor Butterick's the other one who, if the Giants and Bulldogs did a trade this morning, so that might help the Suns get an extra pick there.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to cost the Suns quite a few points to give up those two picks, which makes it hard for them to. I mean, they might be able to get Zach Hewland and Dylan Patterson through the door if those two are top 5 bids, but they're not going to be able to get some of the other guys through, I don't think, in Bo Adensall and Kobe Colson and Jai Murray. So they've got a few there, but they're not going to be able to get all of them.
Yeah. So what is the risk that you're weighing up here if you're handing over potentially 7 and 8, and as we said, getting 24 back? Are you putting too much stress on the now, do you think, if you Gold Coast, or do you think it sort of evens out if they get those 2 priority guys in?
Well, I think they definitely want to get those 2 priority guys in. If they do have to trade a pick from next year into this year, later on, obviously you can trade up until and during the draft on November 19 and 20 now. So there's options for them to always get back in if they like. But I think they'll be fine. They'll be able to get those 2 guys in one way or another.
And they'll have to give up something to get Jamari Ugle-Hagan, but we don't expect that will be of any high quality to get him in the door. So I don't think they'll hold them back too much. As we now know, Cav, they have pick 110. So who knows? That could be part of the deal. We'll find that out down the track.
No points associated with that pick, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably negative points if you're trying to hold on to something like that. Jai Simpkins, a name that's only sort of getting more steam. Collingwood interested. Those early reports that North Melbourne said they only want 2 first-round picks for him is maybe a little bit ludicrous.
Yes.
Where do you think things end up with Jai Simpkin? And noting that North Melbourne doesn't have a pick before 25 at the moment because Richmond is holding their first rounder.
Yeah, and Jai Simpkin's got 4 years left on a pretty lucrative deal at North Melbourne, so I just can't see how that one happens, getting to the Pies. Yeah, I think that's less likely to happen by Wednesday. Yeah,
and Collingwood, as we know, doesn't have anything before 39 as we're recording this at the moment, so they don't have really anything to offer up in a deal like that. It'll only have to be futures, and by the sounds of it, North Melbourne wants better than that. So I can't see how that's happening unless North Melbourne changes it. It seems from the start they weren't really interested in trading him like a lot of others, but they've been quite firm on that stance so far. Clayton Oliver, I think that one gets done reasonably soon. That seems to be the one out of the big names that's probably most likely to get ticked off before Wednesday. Hopefully we get one of those deals out of the way.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, off to the Giants, Clayton. So, good on him.
Anything else you're excited for in the next 48 to 50 hours, Cav, as we're getting down to the deadline?
I don't know about Rowan Marshall to your mob, Geelong. I think, that's an interesting watch. Obviously, the Cats changed tact and went after Charlie Curnow last week. Now it's, maybe it's back to Rowan Marshall, given that Charlie might be off to Sydney. So I think that's an interesting watch. Lee Galea after the backflip, I think that's interesting. Whether or not he gets to North Melbourne, who's the one there. Calamachi off to the Crows. Yeah, so there's still a few that are left to play out, but I think the biggest watches are definitely like Zach Merrett and Christian Petrarca and these guys.
If pick 19 isn't enough for Rowan Marshall, what would you be accepting if I was St Kilda with this sort of hardline stance? Does it need to be future first and then sort of a swap of seconds and thirds or something like that? Or does it need to be even more than that?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, does St Kilda just buckle in the end and go, okay, we'll take 19? But I think 19's a pretty reasonable deal for Rowan Marshall, isn't it?
Yeah, I would think that would be pretty much bang on value, I would say, for a guy who's 30.
Yep.
You've already got a ruck that's taken his spot.
Yep.
He wants to go. He's given you good service. I would think 19 works, but St Kilda has said no to that. Who really knows what's going on in the minds of the St Kilda recruiters at the moment, but that seems to be their stance. So I don't know whether it becomes one of those classic 19 plus a future second for a future third or whatever that sort of stuff is.
Yeah, a little swap later on, yes.
They usually work those kind of things out.
Yep.
There'll be plenty of those wheeling and dealings to come over the next couple of days. We're getting closer and closer to the deadline. We're almost there. Keep following every deal, every update, every trade grade, codesports.com.au.